Hey, welcome back to Mobility WOD. It is day 13 of our Mobility WOD Challenge out of 14, and we're introducing our last archetype. Now, the last archetype goes back to the shoulder, and we call it the press. Anytime the shoulder comes into extension, we know that the stable position has an element of internal rotation. This is when we're going to jump, the hands wind up in the back. Now, if I'm missing internal rotation, we hinted this before, the shoulder translates forward. And remember that half that extension has an internal rotation requirement. So if you found yourself missing internal rotation, guaranteed you do not have full extension. And that's one of the ways that these patterns end up relating to one another. So when do we see this position? The bottom of the bench press, the bottom of the dip, getting up off the floor, the finished position of the row, a chest to bar pull-up. What else am I missing? You get the idea. There is a lot. Oh, by running. Hey, there we go. So for our runners, muscle ups. For our runners, if you're missing this position, we see that the shoulder will flip forward, and this running position, this Popeye running position, is so common amongst our runners who are missing the ability to come back. If you see the sprinters, beautiful extension with the hand straight. If we see the hand doing something weird, we know that the shoulder is incomplete, and the athlete's looking for stability through the hand. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start by showing you three that I absolutely disdain. And the more pulling that I do in my sport, which is the finished position for my pulling stroke, I end up getting short, and as I fatigue, my elbow wants to go out. It's one of the dead giveaways that I'm missing some component of this extension into rotation or press archetype. So what we're going to do today, for starters, is mobilization I call the worstest, because it seems to light me up. So now what happens is that Roop starts overhead, and he walks out and just creates a little tension. And this alone is a fantastic, easy, just a little opener. He's messing around. He's finding out where he's tight. He's in this full end range overhead position. But then watch what he's going to do. He's going to flip the arms around, walk the band out. And notice we have a skinny band here. And this does a couple things. This tracks into his shoulders back, and also like a friend pulling you in. But when you have a friend pull you in, guess where your shoulders always go? Forward. The band tension keeps the shoulders back. Now, this is already bad. What we're going to exaggerate here is that he can breathe all the way in. Oh, that was such a tight breath here, and all the way out. And when we put this stiff chest tissue under tension, it does limit full excursion or mechanical ventilation efficiency, which is one of the reasons we look at this around improving breathing mechanics in our athletes. Now, that's good. But watch what happens when he rotates a little bit. That pulls one of his hands closer to midline. Oh, and it's so good. We also like this because the hand is actually not grabbing something, but is in this position that closes the shoulder into a stable position. This internally rotated position. People get confused because, as our friend Serge says, the hands are clever. Because your hands rotate both directions, it sometimes confuses people. But this is the wind-up stable position. Then you can go to the other side. He can contract, relax. That pulls that hand almost into what we call this extension, horizontal, adduction, abduction. I don't know what it is. But what we know is that it's a classic position around the extension and interrotation of press arch. The only difference is the hand, little flash dance here, the hand is bent versus straight. The shoulder position remains the same. So that's position number one. We're going to come back now to the mobilization we called the banded hook. And so we talked about this the other day when we were working on internal rotation because it captures that element. But today, we're going to come back to it because we find it really opens up this tissue very well. He's got the hook here and then pulling the hand in. So we're capturing the internal rotation component that we were missing from the last piece. The last piece was classic extension driven with an element of rotation. Here, by bending the elbow first, we're winding up the shoulder massively into rotation, and then adding the extension load, which really does change the bias, and you can feel it completely different, even though literally the arm is roughly in the same angle and position that it was before. So contract, relax, fart around here, spend 2 or 3 minutes in this position. Now, there's a lot of elements to this, like stiff triceps, that can contribute. What we're going to do is talk about an element that gets loaded here, and particularly when people are missing this press archetype and the shoulder comes forward, a stiff biceps, we find, leads to positional problems. I don't know what that is on your arm, but that's disgusting. Some fur. When the shoulder comes forward, this is the mechanism for where we see a torn biceps tendon. So if I'm missing this extension internal rotation piece, shoulder translates forward as a dump or an escape. Bicep tendon gets translated through, and that is the mechanism of injury for most of the anterior shoulder dislocations and problems that we see. So we're just going to deal with some of that stiffness in the biceps tissue. Now, this is different than we worked on internal rotation. Roop has got his leg on there, but this big diffuse tissue smash through the biceps is exquisite. True or fact? Fact. Or true or fact, which is a funny way of saying both. So we've got this three-piece today. Test, retest, get to the bottom position of your push-up, see how that feels, take that shoulder into extension, and notice that this piece is how I locomote or run or push or pull. So much is happening in this shape, and we see people missing the key elements of internal rotation and extension. See you tomorrow for the last day.